I sold all my NVIDIA stocks right before the peak to buy this commercial property, and that decision either cost me a lot of money or made me way more. So today I'm gonna break down why I did it and whether it was worth it, and I think this is a great real life example of a stocks versus real estate scenario and what are the outcomes when you choose one over the other. And the reality is that it really depends on what you buy and when you buy it. You can pick a stock that shoots up like NVIDIA or Micron, or you can pick a stock that barely moves and even worse tanks. And the same goes for real estate. You can buy a property that has a lot of hidden costs and it doesn't really appreciate well, or you can buy a property that appreciates really well and is in almost perfect condition. So if I could help just a few people make the right decision with this video, I'll know that this was 100% worth it. And if you find it helpful or insightful, all I ask in return is to like, comment, or subscribe, as that will help this video get in front of people who will find this valuable. So let me quickly walk you through what happened. Back in 2023, an opportunity came up to buy this beat up commercial property. And I talked more about the financing process in my last video, but long story short, this property was appraised for $390,000 and I needed cash for the down payment. And the only way I was going to get this down payment money was by selling a few of my stock positions. At the same time, I had been holding NVIDIA for a couple of years and it had already gone up. I bought 15 shares in the middle of 2022 at $144 per share for a total investment of $2,160. And keep in mind, this was before the 2024 stock split. So in today's value, that would have been roughly $14. And by the time I needed that money for the down payment in October of 2023, the share price was sitting at $442, and in today's value, that would have been around $45. So I was already up 200% at that time. I was sitting on a solid gain, and I was thinking about realizing that gain towards my down payment. However, I needed to sell $13,000 worth of stocks, and I had to sell a couple other stock positions. Two other positions I had were Cisco and BP, and they were both sitting at relatively decent gains. For Cisco, I bought 78 shares for a share price of $44 in 2022. And at that time, a share price was $53. So I was sitting at roughly a 25% gain. For BP, I bought 78 shares at a price of $28 in 2022. And in October of 2023, it was around $38. So I was sitting around a gain of 35%. Altogether, between all three stocks, I was sitting at a 76% gain. I had originally put in $7,776. And at that time, those stocks were sitting at $13,500. So just to recap, my total return with NVIDIA was around 200%. With Cisco, it was around 25%. With BP, it was around 35%. And keep in mind, this was a Roth IRA distribution, so I did not have to pay any taxes or penalties. And if you are using a traditional brokerage or you do not meet any exceptions in your Roth IRA, your return will most likely be lower. And at that point, I had to make a simple decision. Do I keep my money in stocks and let it compound over time? Or do I realize those gains now and move it over to real estate? Also, at that time, I kind of remember being a little bit bored with the stocks. To me, stocks are a long-term play. They are simple and they are a passive tool for wealth creation. But real estate is completely different. It's a lot riskier, less passive, and you kind of have control over the outcome, whether it's good or bad. And honestly, I felt like I was not learning anything by just holding stocks. So I made the decision to sell all three of those positions and use it towards my down payment and put it towards something that I had way less experience in. Now, if I had just held, let's see how much I would have gained with those three positions. With NVIDIA alone, that would have been worth $30,000 today. This is probably an extreme example just because NVIDIA was probably the hottest stock this past year. Cisco would have been around $6,800 and BP would have been around $3,600. So that $13,500 in 2023 would have been around $40,000 today. And from my original investment of $7,776, that would have been a 414% gain. But because I already realized that 76% gain when I sold for $13.5 thousand, we will just look at what I lost out on since I sold. That would have been a 196% gain over the past 3 years, and I would have made $26.5 thousand more, which, yeah, it hurts a little because on paper, it looks like I might have made the wrong decision. I could have held on to those stocks and made a lot more money, but does that $26.5 thousand actually outweigh my experiences in real estate and what I've learned along the way? And if I'm being honest, I would say my experience with real estate is way more valuable than what I missed out on. And obviously, if I had maybe 100 shares of NVIDIA, I would be sitting here telling a different story.
You're goddamn right.
But altogether, with the amount of shares that I had and what I missed out on, I don't think it was too big of a loss. And if I were to compare the return from the stocks to the equity gained from the appraised value after the property's renovations, that $26.5 thousand is not that much. And I could have kept holding for another 20 years and my gains would have been a lot more. But if I didn't take this opportunity to sell my stocks, I would still have zero real estate experience. And I believe that this is the core of the whole stocks versus real estate discussion. Because buying this property forced me into situations that I would have never been otherwise, dealing with contractors, brokers, lenders, insurance agencies, and tenants, learning about taxes, construction issues, small business operations, and even pests, and this list goes on. And there's no way I would have learned any of this by sitting on a stock. And I think this was the right decision for me. And the question should not be which investment is better. That's kind of like asking whether you should use a calculator or a hammer. They're just completely different tools and it depends on what you're doing. If you're looking for something simple, passive, and hands-off, I would say stocks are probably better. If you're looking for more control and responsibility and you're okay with getting your hands dirty, then I could say real estate will definitely give you that. And for me, that's what I wanted. I'll be making a video breaking down exactly how this property is performing, how much I put into it, how much it was recently appraised for, and what the cash flow looks like, and ultimately what the return on my investments are.